You have the ability to paint the picture. If you're painting it with your own choices,
Right.
owning the painting is a lot easier.
Right.
But if you're taking advice from every other person and then adding colors, you may not be the completely happy with the outcome. But then whose fault is it? Is it the ones who gave you advice or yours for taking it?
Correct.
And then you're even more in conflict. But
Right.
when I'm choosing my own colors and my own strokes, the way I know that this is my life and my painting, and if I don't like it, the power of changing it is also with me because I'm holding the brush.
I've always been interested in NLP, which is neuro linguistic programming, and I'm so excited that I get to learn more about it with you on this podcast today. I have with me Janvi, who has been practicing NLP since the last 4 years or maybe more. Thank you, Janvi, for joining me today on Soul Suffer with Bhav. I always tell people it's the suffer of Hindi and not the suffer of English. And I have to be very, very clear on an NLP episode. But thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Bhavesh. And you just have to be you, whether it is NLP or another episode, because NLP is about the working with the other person and not about me.
Right. Okay. I get it. So, firstly, because it's called Soul Suffer, I want to know what your journey has been like. How did you arrive at NLP as a modality?
One of the things that I had kind of promised myself is learning a new skill every year, whether it is in the spiritual aspect, corporate aspect, or it could be just a passion aspect. While working with various healing modalities, something that I realized was there was some way a dependency on a facilitator or someone else to help me out, whether it was just a counseling session or a therapy, or if it was pranic healing. I was dependent upon another healer. And I wanted a modality which was self sufficient and which was empowering to me as an individual,
Right.
with or without external help. And I think that intent was so strong, and that's how I stumbled upon NLP.
Right.
And that's how NLP happened to me.
Right. Since the last 1.5 years, almost 2 years now, I've done a lot of self work. I have reached out to a lot of healers, and I've realized that what any healer does primarily is peaks your awareness. And if only we realize that awareness is the biggest tool of all, it makes life so simple.
Absolutely, but it's easy said than done.
It's easier. Yes, yes. It's actually more than hard work. I'm going to use this term very loosely. It's ugly work. Because when you start doing the healing work, you're actually, before you strike gold, you're digging all the mud and it's all flying all over you. And but it's very rewarding. I wouldn't
Is
have
it?
it any other way. Trust me.
What if there was an easier way without digging the mud, getting the same outcome that you wanted?
And is that NLP?
Absolutely.
So why don't you tell me what NLP is actually? What is neuro-linguistic programming?
Let me break the word. Neuro means brain, to do with neurons and transmitters in terms of receiving. Linguistics is the language, the
Right.
language we speak and the language we hear, because it's a give and take. And programming, as let's say, is changing or reprogramming your neurological patterns using language.
Okay.
So, all of us have our belief systems or our strategies of doing certain things.
Right.
Some of them work brilliantly for us, some of them don't. So, the ones that I do that are not working, is there a way that I can change them or replace them with a new patterns or a
Right.
new strategy? NLP is all about it.
And how easy is it? It sounds
How
difficult.
easy do you want it to be?
Oh, like having a cup of coffee?
So, it is as easy as you really want it to be.
Okay.
Language, right? A lot of things that we speak is what we define. When you started talking about healing and digging, one of the things that I drew me to NLP was NLP is not a modality which gets or decodes illness to get you to wellness.
Okay.
A lot of healing modalities would want to get to the uh, entire journey of illness, or in terms of the trauma, in terms of reliving all of it. NLP is about shifting you from that state to where you desire to be.
Okay.
So if this is not what I like, if someone has to tell me, what, I don't like this, my first question is, then what do you like?
Right.
So what we do is we actually move your focus to where you really want to be.
But then isn't it like you're treating the symptom and not the wound really?
Again, do you want it to be? Because everything is going to be exactly how I want it to be.
Right.
While I will not want you to relive the experience, but in terms of dealing and letting your subconscious heal it on its own,
Okay.
while you are already sorted.
So you're saying your subconscious is anyways working on healing the wound.
Absolutely.
Even
Correct.
if
It
or
is your
not.
conscious which keeps poking it.
Right, right.
Because even if every night, one of the things, right, like the simple basic example if I have to take, we go to bed, right? We sleep for the 7-8 hours where you're allowing your body to heal.
Right.
So is your mind.
Right.
But when I wake up, even if there is nothing that is going to trigger let's say a sad memory, I would remember, and I don't want to change it. I will ensure that I relive it, the entire episode.
Right.
Because that's how I have. These are certain patterns, and I'm not saying everybody does it, but most of us on certain aspects and certain things, we do land up doing it.
Right.
So how do I break this pattern?
Right.
And breaking the pattern is basically scratching your disc. Once I've scratched the disc, it's not going to play the same. So if you remember our CDs, right? The disc.
Yeah, yeah.
You give me the disc. My job is to scratch it so that it doesn't play it again and it finds a new way for it.
So can you give me an example of how would you scratch the disc? How would you erase that pattern?
So there's no one fixed solution or a recipe for a person.
Right.
As different and as varied we are the solutions.
Right.
Each solution is about what works for you rather than what is easy for me.
Right.
Just to give example, all of us receive information through our 5 senses: visual, auditory, kinesthetic, gustatory, and olfactory.
Right.
Now, depending upon which is my dominant sense, that is the path of least resistance for me to receive.
Right.
So maybe I'm a visual person because the moment I start narrating a story to you, you can visualize the entire series of events. But for someone else, they might be more auditory. So when I'm saying that, when I opened the door and it made a sound, they possibly are already hearing that creak. And for someone, they're highly kinesthetic. So when I'm saying that, the lights were switched off and I had to go through that dark lane alone, they possibly are feeling that those goosebumps that, oh shit, someone had to walk past.
Right.
Depending again upon
The
how
dominant.
we are receiving the information. So when I know when I'm with someone, what is their meta model, or in terms of not a meta model, but in terms of receiving of the modalities which are stronger, is the language I would speak. So there's a difference of how we are in different aspects and contexts.
Right.
For instance, even if I have to take my example, the way I would possibly conduct myself in the corporate world will be a lot different than how I am with my friends.
Correct.
But doesn't make me two different individuals. These are two aspects of my personality.
Right.
However, all our senses keep realigning and changing and adjusting basis our environment and the kind of input we choose to give ourselves every 21 days. So even if you have visual and kinesthetic high, doesn't mean that you cannot get your auditory up.
Okay.
Or vice versa. Every 21 days, there is recalibration that happens within.
Every 21 days.
Yes.
A friend of mine, when I was talking about NLP, because I was really excited, and he said he's done NLP before, and he said NLP is not about finding the right answers, it's actually about asking the right questions.
Interesting.
Do you think that's right? That's correct?
It is for him.
Okay.
NLP helps you identify yourselves and your patterns and your layers.
Okay.
Okay. So Richard Bandler and John, who are the co-founders of NLP, these are the guys who actually studied existing human beings to understand their excellence strategy. And when they observed, what are these individuals doing so differently for these high outputs or for these successes or for beating the odds and being there is how they derived and came along in terms of developing the behavioral science called NLP.
Right.
Let's say we're having coffee.
Right.
We love the coffee. So the spontaneous reaction is going to be to ask people, how did you make the coffee? What is the recipe for your coffee?
Correct.
It doesn't mean that I don't have my recipe for coffee, but because I like your recipe and like more than your recipe, I like the coffee more, I can actually copy paste your recipe every day to make my coffee exactly the same. If I can do this for coffee, I can do this for my success strategy, for relationships, for business, for everything that you can think of. Because we all know someone or the other who's doing a fab job at something or the other.
Right.
How do I learn those patterns that these guys have and imbibe in me? So let's say I think you're doing a fab job in terms of conducting and hosting this, which is just beautiful.
Thank
I
you.
don't think I have that in me, but you know what? That does not mean I cannot.
Correct.
So what I need to understand is, how is Bhav doing all of this? If I understand your strategy, so how do you do it? How do you prepare for it? Because all of us have that game before,
Yeah.
right? If I understand that, is I can copy paste in my life in a context only. Context being very, very important.
Right.
And replicate it.
Right.
And as they say, we see and observe things in others which are actually already a part of us.
That's
So-
so beautiful. Yeah.
So all the resources that we need to be a certain way that we aspire to be, so long it is we
Right.
and not someone else's narrative,
Right.
I think it's just very easy.
Wow.
This was just like a tip of the iceberg, to be very honest. Okay, there's so much fun that you can actually have with NLP also.
Okay.
There are a lot of times when you want to make certain decisions, right? Like whether I should go left, I should go right, whether I should date this person, I should date that person. In terms of, the choices basically.
Right.
We reach out to whoever we know and then make these choices sometimes, or sometimes they're completely left to us. So there is this very quick test that you can do. So let's just sit properly and say my name is Bhav. Bhav, right? Bhavesh, Bhav,
Bhav.
which one? Bhav. Okay, superb. So my name is Bhav, and swallow your spit. And just observe when you're swallowing, and it will just absolutely naturally and effortlessly come to you. The nuances of how the spit kind of moves down from your mouth to the
Okay.
esophagus. So
My name is Bhav. Okay.
So, as you have this memory fresh, maybe you just want to take a sip of water. And as you have that, and you're absolutely grounded and you're with us, now, yeah, one breath. And as you exhale, you're just grounded and there. My name is Richard, and swallow your spit.
My name is Richard. Yeah.
What? Yeah.
This was effort.
Ooh, is it? Like what?
Like I could like when I said Bhav,
Mm-hmm.
it just went like zoom, and here I had to like, there's this, and then there's this. That happened.
So, you remember there is a kahavat in Hindi, jhoot hazam nahi hota hai, like swallowing a lie.
Yeah.
It's difficult to swallow a lie.
Oh.
A classic
So
example.
how does this apply to this or that?
So now when I'm looking at these two options, let's say whether I accept a job in Philippines or I accept a job in India or any other country possibly, whatever it is, I could just do this simple swallow test.
Right.
Accepting a job in Philippines, and if it is as easy as when I say my name and this is not, then I have a clear indication.
How trustworthy is that? Like if I take that job in Philippines, for example, this could be some neural pattern in my head that says, something embedded in my head that says Philippines is a great country and the other country is not as good. It could just be that. How does that verify that as a good choice, right choice?
Beautiful. So we all have a recipe for everything we do in life.
Right.
Okay, so if I have to ask you, what is truth for you, or what does truth sound like?
Right.
And if you kind of start decoding, and it's an exercise in itself, but it helps beautifully, you will realize you have a recipe for truth, identifying someone as being honest or trustworthy.
Right.
Similarly, you will have a recipe for lies.
Okay.
And these recipes get overlaid on various things and choices and decisions that we make in life, because these are patterns and loops.
Right.
So nothing in this universe is random as it may seem.
Right.
It's all connected and in patterns.
I call it organized chaos. Those are my two words that I put together.
It's interesting. So I on that lighter note, 7-8 years back, I think I came up with this, and I knew, and I still believe, insanity is the core ingredient to lead a sane life.
Wow.
If you're not insane enough
Yeah.
to be in the organized chaos,
Yeah.
you're gonna go nuts.
Yeah, exactly.
Correct.
Yeah. Wow. So now, since you're talking about lives, please tell me, what role does neuro-linguistic programming play in our day-to-day lives? Like, I'm sure because it's about how we speak, how we interact, how we think.
Absolutely. So we are using NLP in various ways. Sometimes we are aware, or sometimes we don't even realize it.
Right.
One of the things recently, when in a conversation with another colleague, and this was in a corporate context, and I think even Manjari, if I remember recall correctly, Manjari being my mentor, from whom
Okay.
I've learned a lot of things, also mentioned that, when we succeed as kids, let's say I scored 98 out of 100 in math, the entire world would cheer, let's go celebrate.
Right.
But if I failed in math, then I would have been made to sit and introspect, what wrong did I do?
Correct.
So all throughout our life, we've focused on the recipes of failures rather than recipes for success. We are so busy celebrating success that we've not decoded what worked for me, that I can take that and implement in my life.
Correct.
And NLP is all about patterns and replicating the patterns in every aspect.
Right.
So if I know what worked for math, and as a kid I was petrified of history and geography, and I'm still am, and I have no logic or rhyme or reason, just those freaking dates, and why the heck they have to do what they did.
You know, as a child, I was like, all these history and geography teachers would kill me, but I was like, mar gaye, hame padna pad raha hai.
Exactly. Okay, sorry, but
Huh.
I'm like, you did what you did. Kudos to you. Why do I need to remember?
Yeah, why do I need to remember it? Shit, I'm telling you, there'll be people doing dharna outside our houses after
I
this.
swear. Okay, with all due respect,
Yeah.
They were great people who did what they did. I just didn't see a point of.
I
me
personally didn't see, it's
yes.
no indication on
Correct.
the
and
subject.
how I was going to use it in my future.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
of course, there is always a reason what it does.
I agree.
And that could be in expanding our maps of the world. And it's an interesting concept. I'll just come.
Maps of the world.
Yes.
Okay.
Each one of us has a map of a world.
Not the geography map.
You want it to be?
No.
Then it will be any other map.
Okay, great.
So, so that's what NLP is all about in your day-to-day life, is taking your recipes and replicating. So if I knew what worked for me in math, if someone would have told me the way you study math, अरे वो ऐसे ही history study कर,
Huh.
I think life would have been very different. And you can work with this with kids all along with their studies, with the behavioral patterns and casting
Right.
with stronger recipes.
So I'm the youngest of 3 kids, and this was a story that I've been always told all my life. When my eldest sister, who had no interest in studying, she failed her 9th grade. She came home and she was petrified because she was like, "Aaj maar padne wali hai." So, and my mother was like Hitler. Sorry, mommy, I'm saying this on camera, but she was like Hitler. Okay, and so my sister, being my sister, has gone to my father because she had him wrapped around his finger, her finger. And she went to him and she said, I have failed the 9th grade. And my father said, come, sit next to me. And he's given her a 100 rupee note saying, sab pass ho gaye, tu to ek hi fail hui hai, to tune kuch bada ukhada hai. And and
How interesting.
Yeah, and something changed in her. And in fact, of course, she didn't top her class or anything, but the next year, she sailed through pretty easily through her exams. Of course, she wasn't interested, so she didn't get 78, 80, whatever percent, but it was effortless for her. And I've heard this all my life. And now that you tell me, it sounds like an NLP technique.
Absolutely. We are so everything about our behaviors and patterns and choices is reward and punishment.
Correct.
Pleasure or pain.
Correct.
So you're either moving towards pleasure when you're
Right.
making a decision,
Right.
or you're moving away from pain,
Right. Right.
because it depends upon how I look at it. Let's say if someone was smoking and they wanted to quit smoking, what are their reasons to quit smoking?
Right.
Is it moving away from pain, or is it moving towards pleasure? And it's important as an NLP to understand what is working for you, because I need to operate from there.
Okay.
Do I need to take you away from pain or push you more towards pain that you snap and quit? Or do I need to take you to pleasure more to make it more like appealing that the habit snaps and breaks?
So can I tell you the weird thing when you said that? And I know that there's no comparison. Like, but when you said towards pain, towards pleasure, for me that automatically means away from pain. It doesn't mean two different things, but ideally it is.
No, correct, exactly.
I know it is. Like somewhere in my mind, I know it is. But when you said, "Am I moving you towards pleasure or away from pain?" I'm like, she's just reframing that. And then the next thought was that no, it's not the same thing.
It is.
Moving, yeah, yeah. But see, that's how our minds are programmed.
Correct. So the way we observe, and a small correction, I mean, I need to move, no, I need to facilitate your move if in case you want to quit a particular habit.
I have heard, now please correct me if I'm wrong, NLP does work in conjunction with other modalities. Like, you know, some people practice NLP with hypnotherapy, with past life regression. Is that what happens?
Hypnotherapy is part of NLP. NLP is a huge umbrella. When you're working with a client or working with someone, you do use certain words to surpass your conscious mind so that the unconscious work happens.
Correct.
Because these patterns, these beliefs. So let's understand maps of the world, what we spoke about, right? Like,
Yeah.
wo kya hota hai? Like, what is that map?
Right.
There is communication happening all around, even in the room, even verbal being just a minuscule or a part of it. There is almost 80% to 70 to 80% communication which is happening, which is a non-verbal cues.
Right.
Which is through actions, body language, and that's how you know something's already happened. That's why you know certain times that while someone is saying something, it doesn't really mean or resonate. Because
Okay,
there are-
this is interesting. What are these non-verbal cues you're talking about?
It could be multiple things. It could be my body language. It could be my eye cues. Okay, oh, this is fun.
Because you said IQs even when I was talking to you earlier.
Yes. So we.
It's not IQ. It's
EYE,
IQ.
not IQ.
Huh,
like
huh.
it's not the.
No,
IT
I'm just
kind.
clarifying. Huh.
Huh.
Okay.
I and the Q.
Q. Huh.
Okay. So we all have the way we store information and the division in a way. Left side normally is recall side for people. Okay.
Okay.
So if I am recalling a memory, so if you remember when I asked you how your day was, what you ate, so a lot of times you were looking at your left and recalling the information, reliving it.
Right.
And at the same time, you're also going to right.
Correct.
Because you are also constructing. Right is construction or creation.
Okay.
Because you have to create a sentence. No, construct karna hai wo
Correct.
sentence. So it happens both the times. But this is fun, and I've been using it when I primarily interview a candidate. So when I ask them, which are the greatest projects you've worked on? And I am actually interested in looking at the IQs. Are you going to recall? Or are you going to construct to tell me what a fancy-ass project you've really worked on?
You will be a scary boss to have. Like every day I'd be practicing that. आज जानवी पूछेगी तो सीधा ही देखना है, ऐसे left में नहीं देखना. I would be that person.
See, I've given out the secrets and now my team knows. And yes,
Damn. So then, sorry, this is interesting.
So you just know when the person is actually making up things and when the person is actually lived it through.
So these are involuntary things.
Yes.
That our bodies programmed to do any which ways.
Yes. It's very limited control. Does not mean you cannot be trained.
Correct.
If you look at just for interest purpose, I was following, because it's behavioral science. So when you look at the testimonies about these celebrities or they're giving interviews, a lot of times one thing that you'll automatically notice is when the question is asked, they go like, or this is a zero level, where you're grounding yourself so that you are actually hiding where you're coming from.
So you don't want to give any cues, so you're looking down and just like,
Correct.
That's what I'm going to do. When somebody asks me, आज क्या खाया?
You have
Actually
to
मैंने बटर पनीर खाया था, लेकिन
be
किनुआ.
evident. Like so evident.
No, no, I'm joking.
No, correct. But you can actually watch that in terms of whose trial was it? I think Johnny Depp and Amber. I was watching it only to know how they were. You will see Amber going a lot up and down.
But you know what? I want you guys to try this left right ground zero technique and tell us in the comments below how it has worked for you. By the way, I just want to tell you you're opening Pandora's box with this because the next time somebody goes to meet their girlfriend or boyfriend, they'll only be looking in the eyes saying, "Kahan se aaye ho?" And they'll be like, like this going crazy. But
There's a fine line, okay, guys. You need to be very careful. There is going to be a chance where the people are going to look at right, which is construct.
Right.
Because, depending upon the language we speak, English is not our mother tongue. So, a lot of times when I have to construct that sentence and so called grammatically सही होना है because like I'm talking on camera ना तो मतलब मुझे अपना
so construct doesn't always mean कि झूठ बोल रहा है.
correct. It is constructing. If I'm constructing a narrative, if I'm constructing a story, now there is a flow for it, right?
Correct.
So if I want to see how it is moving and I'm processing, I will look on right.
Right.
But at the same time, let's say you throw a question and saying that, Chandvi, tell me most exciting case that you've worked on. And the first thing I do is write, which means मैं कौन सा वाला केस अच्छा लगेगा कैमरा पे is possibly I'm thinking hypothetically. But the same is go and please God, I'm pretty sure now people are going to rewind and look at जानवी कहाँ देख रही थी. मत करना वो बहुत involuntary होता है. तो it is with caution. But yes, this is what NLP helps you with day-to-day life also.
So I have a question because you said that hypnosis is a part of NLP. It actually scares me to hear that. I'll be very honest, I'm now voicing my fears. It scares me to hear that because it's almost like you're using linguistic cues to reprogram my mind. And if the practitioner is not ethical, that means सारे पैसे जायदाद ऐसे.
I wish it was that easy, yaar. I would have not been sitting here. I would have been sitting in some, maybe Mykonos or somewhere.
One second, you could still be sitting in Mykonos and come on my podcast. What do you mean?
No, मतलब I'm saying in the corporate world, यार. तो मतलब मैं करवा लेती थी जायदाद ये सब. Ethical or not, I mean, we need to understand the way अपने computer में we have a firewall, right? You have an antivirus.
Right.
So the moment there is a possible malware or a virus intrusion, the firewall shoots up.
Right.
Our firewall is our conscious. So the moment I know someone's intent is not placed well, my firewall will shoot up. So if I'm working with you today, if my intent is set in the highest good for you and me and people around us, your firewall or your consciousness knows where it is. But if in case मेरा इंटेंट है ना ये भाव के जायदाद, and by the way he's a very rich guy,
Power of attorney.
हाँ करेक्ट, पावर ऑफ अटर्नी लेके ऐसे फुल सारा लेके Mykonos, if I have to, your firewall will shoot up.
Correct.
You'll be like, बेटे हम लोग ये क्यों कर रहे हैं? And anything and everything will happen only if you want it to happen, because NLP is not about me and me changing you unless you want it to be changed.
Correct. Okay. So then it's not in that sense risky really.
It could be. There have been demonstrations as well by Diggaj NLP practitioners where they have kind of been street smart and just to show experimental kind of fooled around.
Right.
But that's only to say that what it could do. And this was one question we always have, that what happened to their conscious firewalls? Why did they not shoot up? They shot up, they were just late and outdated हो गया था antivirus. So maybe you were not aligned, you were not in your own space.
You weren't grounded.
Correct. So if they were not grounded, or we all have a lessons to learn, right? If it was a part of my learning and it was important because maybe my attention to detail is slipping, or my focus is slipping, or my alignment is slipping, and hence I need that one jhatka from universe, it is possible for it.
See, it's amazing that even though it sounds like a science, NLP is a science.
It is behavioral science.
There is still a non-tangible universal consciousness that is still connected to it somehow.
It is.
So it's not black or white.
It
It's
is
in
not.
conjunction.
It is more than 50 shades of grey.
Wow, I
Definitely.
like the sound of that. Okay. That makes me think that most of the advertising that we see, things, products being sold to us, is intelligently crafted NLP.
Yes. So there's something
Techniques?
called as embedded commands in NLP,
Okay.
which is how I park certain things with you when I want you to action it.
Okay.
So simple example, and this is, you will see it across a lot of things that get sold or services that get sold. They say it was one of their fantastic workshops in lifetime, or one of the fantastic workshops that they have ever done in lifetime.
Right.
When I said they say, what part, like that entire sentence, what part do you take home?
That the workshop was fantastic.
Thank you. That is exactly what I want you to take home. Who's this they? Who are these they?
Huh. Oh yeah.
So I've given an embedded command because I want you to take that home.
Oh. Next time they tell me to do something, I'm like, who are you? Kaun ho
Who's
tum?
this they? No, also
No,
it helps as well, of course, because if done in right, let's say if my intent is I genuinely want the right set of respondents or right set of people to show up for my workshop, and I'm using this, I know I will still attract. But your advertisements are smart enough and the marketers are smart enough. There have been enough and more studies to get into the space of habit formation.
Okay.
So brushing your teeth twice was also habit formation, because after a certain point toothpaste started selling less, right? The volume still had to go up.
Right. Right.
So how do I include a new habit? I think if you want to look up, I think it was the Pepsodent launch in US, and that case study of how the habit change was brought in for people in America to start brushing every day.
You know, that reminds me, somebody once told me that the concept of Santa Claus, connecting it to Christmas, was a marketing strategy by Coca-Cola. Santa Claus actually has no relevance with Christmas. Coca-Cola, because the colors of Coca-Cola and the colors
Interesting.
of Santa Claus are the same.
That is also called anchoring in NLP, by the way, where I'm anchoring you with the colors of the brands for you to remember.
Correct. Because today you can't think, if I look at Santa Claus, I will think of Christmas. And somewhere embedded in my brain is I'll go to Coke.
Yeah.
So this reminded me of that.
To share with you, many political leaders are also trained in NLP, by the way.
Okay.
Because when I want to get a buy-in, I think it was Obama's first speech, even before he stood for the election. If you notice, right from his color of the tie to how he parked the points that he wanted, they have the left and right.
I don't know. Tell me.
So, like, as we all know, right, you have a left wing and a right wing in terms of political parties, right? So, let's say I'm a right wing candidate, and if you start observing their speeches and the pitches that they come for, you will a lot of times see that when they talk, if I'm from the right, let's say, what did I say? I'm from
The right.
right. So, let's say I'm saying, this is extremely important for us to do.
Right.
You know, getting these changes is important. Women rights are important. Kids need education and we need to fight. We need to do all of this. Not fighting for this is a sign of losing or you being a loser. What I've done is I've focused and parked all the right things on the right and all the not so nice things on left. So the next time when you go for voting, I'm sure you're going to vote for the right candidate. What I did is again a spatial anchoring and bringing you which side do you want to vote and who do you want to vote for.
Right. Oh, it's interesting. So it's almost like sometimes I feel like we don't even realize what's being done to our mind on a
Yes.
day-to-day basis.
Absolutely. What do you think this social media business is, right? In terms of how we've gotten hooked to it, right? Breaking that is also an actual, like, it's an addiction that you need to get out of.
Right. Correct.
Because that is the programming that has happened. There are these small gamifications, right? which keep happening, and how you get hooked on, and how your brain.
What is the gamification?
So let's say rewards, right?
Right.
You keep getting, like, the more time you spend, you will get something.
Right.
Like all the Insta accounts and like all the social media accounts of the world, they encourage you to spend more time.
Right.
And they're encouraging make one reel per day for
Right.
small businesses. The more you make, the more you reach.
The more you post at the same time, the more reach. The algorithm actually makes you reach more viewers.
You just gave me an embedded, or said an embedded command, the more and more.
What? What? Tell me again.
The more you talk to me, the more you will fall in love with me.
Right. Ooh.
You see, he just said right.
Oh, right. Yeah, correct. You're playing these tricks on me on camera. This is not right.
No.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, these are also part of embedded commands.
Oh.
So which is
Interesting.
inculcating a new behavioral pattern.
Okay, I'm going to now try and see how what we can do as regular people in day-to-day life using these techniques. So for example, if I want to repair a relationship with somebody, maybe who I don't like or who I don't get along with, or maybe I get along with them but it's a fractured relationship right now. If I want to use an NLP technique to repair a relationship and make something, or just make a relationship better, what can I do using NLP?
So I thought I'm not going to share the basic secret of how everything works.
You think I'd let you go without you sharing the basic secret?
Yeah, I guess. Because, see, working with NLP, it's also important that you also learn and practice it ethically and in the right way.
Yeah.
Which is why I was hiding the core ingredients. Nonetheless, for anything to work and any aspect of NLP to start working with, the base is to be in a rapport with the other person.
Right.
Now, what do we understand with rapport? Is sharing a good vibe, good equation, being on the same page is my understanding.
Right.
Yours possibly may be the same or different. So in NLP, it is important before I start even working with you is to get into the rapport,
Right.
which you may have noticed, may not have noticed. When we started our conversation, I was sitting exactly how you were sitting. Now that I'm in the rapport with you, I have moved and gotten comfortable, and I know I'm okay.
You're playing NLP with me.
That is on autopilot for me because it just helps to work with people.
So you're basically, mirroring me in a certain way actually drops my defenses.
Because it's a myth that we like people or opposites attract. We like people who are like us.
That's actually true.
Yeah. So when you know and that you and I are on the same page, the quality of conversations and the willingness to listen to one another is higher.
But then so you're telling me that opposites attract is a completely wrong theory?
While stability and certainty is important in our life, uncertainty is equally important.
Right.
Because certainty leads to monotony kicking in. Hence, we want the adventure, we want the risks.
Right.
So, of course, you will be attracted. However, it will be interesting to look at if that attraction holds ground. It will still hold ground on certain common factors. It could be beliefs, it could be values, it could be certain likes or a common dream.
I have nieces who are teenagers now, and I also work because I am a choreographer. I work with a lot of young people, and they have a lot of strangely they have a lot of self-image issues more than we did.
Yeah.
Also because of social media
Absolutely.
and how it propagates the likes and all of that. If you have to give them a tip to use NLP to get over this whole self-image issue, because every second teenager you see is depressed. Every second person has a self-image issue. They're always photoshopping. Like
Yeah.
I'm going to confess. There are many times that before I put a picture, which is a very recent phenomenon, I will work on it, just Snapseed, and maybe the work is so minuscule that you can't even see, but in my head, I've increased the brightness, I've distinct contrast, and okay, now this is great. But the actual result may not be as different from the original picture. But that's what's happened. So if you have to give not just teenagers, just general people a
Yeah.
tip to use NLP to help themselves work on their self-image issues, what would you say? What can we do?
I don't know if it is a tip or not. I think it's very important first to really provide not just the teenagers but everyone around us a non judgmental space to begin with.
Right.
It sounds very easy, but every single thing that we do or say, we are always being judged.
Right.
It's the fear of failures that is instilled in us and not anything else. As you rightly stated, even for me, I had to use the filters or I had to be very careful with what kind of angle is going on social media. Am I looking too fat or am I looking too dark or is my hair looking too frizzy? All those questions would kind of come into my head. Today I really don't care because who I am is what is going to be will show up wherever I get, like whichever picture of mine gets posted. Fat, fat. Pretty, pretty. Ugly, ugly. I am who I am.
Right.
And that confidence today is after working on myself and understanding who I am, which is what NLP helped me with.
Right.
To know my own narrative.
Right. So it brings us back to self-awareness.
Absolutely.
Spending time with yourself and getting to know yourself.
Correct. Which are your own patterns, which are your own beliefs, which are your own strategies, and not the ones that we've picked up.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we're not living our lives, we're living our parents' lives. The unfulfilled dreams.
That's so true. That's so true. And I've heard it so many times that, I couldn't do this, so my child will do it now. Like, I couldn't fulfill this dream, so my child is going to fulfill
Correct.
this dream for me. And it's just,
And those goals are not yours ना to begin with. तो
Exactly.
मतलब किसी और का गोल लेके तुम चल रहे हो तो कहाँ से वो शिद्दत से काम होगा?
correct.
When I was writing something, Kim, is like, you have the ability to paint the picture. If you're painting it with your own choices,
Right.
owning the painting is a lot easier.
Right.
But if you're taking advice from every other person and then adding colors, you may not be completely happy with the outcome. But then whose fault is it? Is it the ones who gave you advice or yours for taking it?
Correct.
And then you're even more in conflict. But
Right.
when I'm choosing my own colors and my own strokes, the way I know that this is my life and my painting, and if I don't like it, the power of changing it is also with me because I'm holding the brush.
That is so true. That is so true to know.
And that is what teens need to know. It is your life. Make your choices basis. What is it that you really want, not what the world wants out of you or what your subordinates or peers and friends are doing. Each one of us is unique in our own way.
Yeah. And we've heard this so many times, but yet it holds true every time you really think about it. That you are unique. You are a unique person in your own way. But we're always trying to equate ourselves because of herd mentality, I think. We feel safe if somebody else is going through the same thing. I'm also going through the same
Yeah.
thing. So it's normal. This normalcy of herd mentality is also the cause of so many problems, I feel.
It's a catch-22 situation because you want to be. So it's in a way we are all the same,
Yeah.
yet we are different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean when I
Yeah.
say that. But we want to stand out being unique that we become the same.
Right. Yeah. Which is so. If I have to rephrase that, we are all part of the same collective consciousness, yet we are individuals having individual experiences
Yeah.
to access the same emotions which are universal.
In a way, yes. Absolutely.
Actually, honestly, after hearing all that you've had to say, I really feel it's a lifestyle choice that we need to make. NLP is a lifestyle choice because it just. And my next question was going to be that if you have to tell our audience, say 3 things that they can immediately change using any NLP technique to change their experience of life, what would it be?
So first, be really careful about the choice of words you use to describe yourself and the conversations you have with yourself, which are very, very, very important because what you're telling yourself is what you're going to start believing. So if my conversations when I fail are going to be what an idiot I am or how stupid I am, I'm going to start believing eventually that I'm idiot and stupid. But if I tell myself, yay, failure, let's learn from it, and ensure we have a new strategy in place, I am going to work towards it.
Sorry, you know what this reminds me? There's this friend of mine who always will say, you know, when I'm flying, my luck is such that I always get a child next to me, a cranky child next to me.
I won't be surprised if it always lands up.
Always. Because, you know, after he flies, you're like, see, one more cranky child.
You're attracting.
Exactly. NLP.
Correct.
Yeah.
NLP manifestations,
Manifestation,
multiple
whatever.
layers.
Yeah,
but
multiple layers to that.
that's
yeah.
a belief system, and you are going to find that for you.
Yeah.
So that's one, definitely. Second is, instead of focusing on the problem, if let's say I don't want to be sad, then what is it that I want to be? And if whatever your state is, for me maybe it's happy, what makes me happy? Let's focus on those things rather than why am I sad and what happened to me and how it happened to
And
me.
it always happens to me.
It happened.
Right.
Start putting things in the past. It is not happening. It
Right.
happened. End. Cut it. Let the loop get over and move.
Interesting. And the third thing?
So third thing, and which is absolutely crucial before you even jump to the first and second, is while I've given you the flavor or the tip of the iceberg in terms of what all NLP can do and demonstrated certain pieces, it's not the complete method which we've spoken about. There is really a method to this madness, and I'll encourage you, if you're really interested, to please go look for an NLP practitioner or an NLP trainer and get yourself trained in with the techniques and modalities and use it with utmost care. Though we say badly done NLP is also good NLP, because there is nothing such as badly done NLP. Because bad for whom?
Correct. So is intention setting also part of NLP?
Absolutely.
So then could one of the things be that you set an intention and be aware why you're setting an intention?
Why? No, we don't encourage why, okay?
Okay.
Why in NLP is not something that we proactively ever, even if I'm doing questioning with you, why is not we ask? If I have to ask, Bhav, why are you wearing that kurta? And you go like, Mera
What is wrong with
kurta,
it? Yeah.
Mera color, my thing, मैंने पहन लिया.
Correct.
But if I just say, Bhav, what made you wear this kurta today, yeah?
It disarms me immediately in my head.
Absolutely. Because why is like, oh my God, they're questioning me on my choices. They're questioning me on my actions. But if I'm genuinely am curious to know what made you do it, you will also be far willing to come and go forward and have a conversation.
So actually, this is a great pointer as a third pointer, if I may say it.
A fourth pointer.
Or fourth-
I don't want my third pointer to be.
Yeah, fourth pointer, is that when you do self-talk, instead of saying, why am I always like this? Why am I doing this?
Yes.
If you ask yourself, what
Beautiful.
made me do it? It'll change the
NLP
narrative.
practitioner in making people.
So yeah, but it could just be that. Like
Absolutely.
instead of asking yourself, why am I doing this? I'm like, what made me do this?
I think not just with you. I think if all of us just even for a day consciously avoid using why and use what, where, how, which, when, whatever possible questions, open-ended, the quality of information that you're going to receive from the other sources is also going to be far more.
Janvi, I have to tell you that before you came on, you were worried about will I be able to talk for 20 minutes? And listen, I really think that we've really covered a lot of ground, and I
hope so.
No, and your mirroring with me has really disarmed me. Like, I have really had a lot of fun on this episode because there are a lot of action steps that you've also shown me and our viewers, and if we all consciously apply them, it's going to be great.
I am grateful for the opportunity and I'm glad I was able to. Yes, I was nervous, and as I said, Bhav, that I was working with my own fears because the fear of camera has been one of the biggest.
Right.
And thank you for helping me overcome my own self-limiting belief of being fearful of the cameras.
Thank
It was
you.
not the cameras, to be honest. It was the fear of failure in spite of saying. So we are all WIP. We are always work in progress.
You know, I truly believe that whenever you're walking the spiritual path, or the path of self-work, let's just take the spiritual out of it. Whenever you're walking the path of self-work, it will always bring up your own fears and doubts and,
Of course,
you know,
yes.
like things that you tell yourself. It always brings it up so you can tackle it and work through it and get stronger. And I'm glad I could be instrumental in you working through this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Yes.
so much for coming on, Janvi. Thank you so much for coming on Soul Safar. And we are definitely going to do, since you're now so disarmed and so natural in front of camera, and I've had such a good time, we have to do one more session, podcast episode soon on maybe one of your other modalities.
Interesting. I'm going to rephrase and encourage you to rephrase. If you really want to give an embedded command and end this at a power or peak, as you're so comfortable with this podcast, I'm sure in next 2 months we will be doing the next podcast for another modality. You've parked it.
So as you're so comfortable with this podcast, Janvi,
This is an example of an embedded command when you want people to do work for you.
so as you're so comfortable with this command, I'm saying, as you're so comfortable with this podcast, Janvi, in the next 2 months, we're going to shoot another podcast for another modality.
Thank you, guys. That was just an embedded command that the NLP practitioner in making.
I'm a quick
Has been.
learner. Don't you agree?
Absolutely, I do.
This
So
was so
thank
much
you.
fun. Thank you, Janvi.
Thank you so much, Bhav. Thank you again. And thank you, team.
Any creator needs your love and support to grow and reach a larger audience. And that is why I would request you to like, share, subscribe, and comment on the video below because, well, you don't know who's going to benefit from this content. Also, please don't forget to hit the bell icon so that you get notified every time we drop a new video. We also upload our podcast on Spotify so you can hear them as smaller chapters in your own time at home.